Hey everyone, very warm welcome to Day of Security Conference. Today I'll be talking on Devsecops, the inevitable way in DevOps world. Let me briefly introduce. I'm Viraj Gandhi, Product Security Manager at the SailPoint. So let's start in with the topic of talking about the modern software development. How we build the modern software development. It has lots of moving parts. We have done the modernization by moving to the agile methodology. It has the DevOps, cloud deployment, microservices architecture it has involved, and that has dramatically have increased the acceleration in the software delivery, but as well as we have add on some software complexity. The monthly release of the software development have now become the continuous delivery. For the engineering team across the globe, they are pushing the code 10 times in a day, which is triggering the build workflow that pushes the code into the container image and later getting deployed into the Kubernetes environment. So just imagine how fast the software development is deployed. But what about the security? Well, we have also seen a trend in a rise in data breaches that has ruined the company's reputation, the brand damage it brings with the data breaches. It becomes a big headlines in the Wall Street Journal. So there is urgent need to start shifting, not just the left, but shifting everywhere. There is a mutation of that shift left approach, which was talking about start involving the security as early as in development lifecycle, but now make sure that the security is infused in every phase of the development life cycle. As a security engineer, developer always consider us as a bump in their making progress of the software development, but we are here to place a guardrails, providing the paved path for any engineer to make sure the software what they are releasing are getting shipped securely at a very first place, rather waiting for customers or data breaches happening at the later stage of the development life cycle, which also turn out to be very expensive. So the security is not just the problem of a security engineer, it is the problem of the everywhere. That's why there is a need to start having the adaptation of the DevOps, which is the union of the people, process, and the technology. And also make sure we start choosing some reliable tools which are less complex and much more easy to use. So if you look into this graph, which clearly shows the cost of fixing the vulnerability as late in the development cycle turn out to be way expensive, then start detecting and remediating as early as in the development life cycle, and all is possible if there is a adaptation of the DevSecOps. So let's talk about what is the DevOps. Like I said earlier, the DevOps, it is the union of the people, process, and the products that helps in continuous delivery of providing the value to the end user. It is not just the tool, but it is the concept, and it has the various phases like the plan, code, build, test, release, deploy, operate, and the monitor. And in the DevOps world, the next keyword you come across is the CICD. Many of you might have heard about the CICD pipeline. So what that mean? So the CI, it stands for the continuous integration. It is the practice of constantly automating the integration of a code changes from various engineers contributors into the single software project. The CD, it stands for the continuous delivery. Again, it is the automation delivery of the completion of the code into the environment, like the testing environment or the deployment environment. So the continuous integration is more during the development phase, and the continuous delivery is more during the development phase. It has been practiced, and many organizations these days, they follow this CI/CD approach for their quicker release go-to-market timeline. And how can we automate this CI/CD workflow? So here, if you see in this image, there is a constant design code build test going on in the continuous integration. And once everything gets approved, all the test cases, the security gates has been passed, it goes into the continuous delivery phase where it's constantly releasing, deploying, maintaining, and the operating. This is how the automation workflow looks like in the ideal CI/CD. So why there is a need of the DevSecOps? Well, the DevSecOps, if you see, it stands for the development, security, and the operation. It is the practice of integrating, infusing the security in every stage of the software development life cycle. Or you can say in the CI/CD pipeline, and it is really helpful. It's help in doing the secret detection. Like, many times the engineers, they leave the hard-coded credential in the core files. So the DevSecOps approach will help you in doing the detection, also scrubbing those hard-coded credentials into your source code repos. It will help in securing your source code repos, vetting the repos, also provide generating the bill of the materials if you want to see what are the direct and the transitive dependency used in your product. And also, if there are any credentials which are getting loaded in a runtime, it helps you in detecting all this. And like I said, in the modern software development, the way the software has been built, there is a large percentage use of the open source software components, the third-party components that just helps in building the software quickly, but it does add some complexity when it comes about the visibility and managing those open source components and the libraries. And also the attack surface area has increased because there is a wide use of the Kubernetes, the Dockers, and the open source components, and that has added some more risk to your CI/CD pipeline. Many times the Kubernetes misconfiguration has been seen, or the vulnerable Docker image are sitting, which are still undetected via some scanning tools. So for that purpose, there is a need to have this DevSecOps adaptations, and it is very important in the business environment, especially with the rising frequency of an attacks, especially in the area of the industries like the healthcare, government, financial sector, where the patients' data, the government's the data are very critical. So in order to secure those PII, the HIPAA related data, and reduce the likelihood of the cyber attacks, the many development firms, they are leaning on the DevSecOps model to limit the possibility of getting this sensitive data breached by the cyber criminals. So the DevSecOps have become a go-to practice for ensuring the applications are getting secure in this modern development ecosystems. So earlier I mentioned the DevOps is nothing but the union of the people, process, and the technology. Now I'd like to walk through more deep dive into each of those components, that how the security throughout the whole process can be achieved. So first, if we talk about the people is about getting the buy-in from your key stakeholders, from the leadership, in order to roll out those security, in order to place those security controls into your development life cycles, building the champions community who will be the advocate about the security in that team, who are the SME, who has that security mindset and will make sure that during the design, during the development and the testing phase, the engineers are following the security. They will help in doing the secure code review. So that can be achieved by the bringing the security awareness through the trainings or building the champions community. The process of establishing the secure development lifecycle is by enabling the various security scanning tools, making sure the regular security assessment, the threat modeling are being built for any new features getting design, and also if we train the QA who always do the perspective of testing from the performance from the unit and the load testing, if they are being trained in terms of the security, if they start doing the security testing, many of the vulnerabilities can be detected as early as possible and can be remediated in the first cycle of the software development, rather having a separate cycle of just fixing those security bugs. There are many products that you can leverage for having the adoption of the DevSecOps, that is of security uh, controls in every stage of a development life cycles. You can have the infrastructure as a code scanning that will help you in detecting any misconfigurations. The SAST SEA scan, it's more for the software code analysis, and for the third-party library scannings, any vulnerabilities can be detected as early as possible. And because it is kind of a white box testing, it relies on the code. You can also enable the DAST, which is the dynamic testing that helps in detecting some vulnerabilities, some runtime flows. The pipeline security will help with the secret management and securing your CICD pipeline from the supply chain attack. So you can leverage all those products in order to ship the secure products to the customers. So how to support these DevSecOps cultures? Well, though the DevSecOps is driven by the engineering team functions, it is heavily involved among the development, the security, the operations. At the team level, a lot of coordination is needed. There shouldn't be fear of or having the frictional conversation between those teams. There has to be the collaboration, the trust relationship built between those team from the very beginning of an effort, that where you can improve the delivery of your projects as well as you can secure your projects, and you can better manage the outages and the compliance of your product. So if you look the DevSecOps at the bird eye, first of all, you need to do a shift to left approach where, like, you are doing the early detection of all those vulnerabilities, the security flaws, and remediating as early as possible. You are establishing the security, the secure software development lifecycle where security is in place in every stages of a development life cycles. And not just that, but you are also automating most of your security task by enabling the tools. Wherever you see the opportunity where you can automate some of your redundant manual tasks, make sure to do that. Make sure that entire DevOps team, including the developers, operation team, they share the responsibility of following the best practices around the security. That's where you can achieve your end goal of shipping the product secure. So I like to talk about some real world incident that had happened recently that provided why there is an urgent need of the adoption of this DevSecOps. The first one was the breach, the Uber breach, where like developers' private repo was exposed, where the hacker was able to get into and read the credential of one of their AWS environment and was able to exfiltrate the massive datas, the sensitive datas of the company about the customers. The second breach, the SolarWinds attack, which was discovered by the FireEye. It's a very well-known attack. The raccoon took almost 9 months, and it was very difficult to identify what amount of the data was lost during that time frame because of that long period. And many organizations get impacted upstream through the supply chain attacks. So that's why there is a need for every organization who is doing the modern software development to do the adaptation of the DevSecOps. So I've been talking about the secure development lifecycle. So everyone is familiar with the software development lifecycle. The SSDLC is talking about the secure development lifecycle. So that means, like, making sure that you are taking the advantage of the products like the SAST and SEA available. You are running those products in your build and in a test phase. You are having your IAST or DAS scan running in your test or in UAT phase, so that all the vulnerabilities that got missed by the SAST or SCA can still get detected during the runtime. Many times, the runtime flaws get missed, or it would be impossible for any SAS scan to detect. That's why there is a need of those separate DAS scan as well. And also, in order to get the different perspective, it's always good to do a regular third party testing, not just for the audit, but also to test your product with a different perspective, with a different eyesight. It does help you to uncover some vulnerabilities which may have got missed by these automating scanning tools. And not just that, also you can participate by having the bug bounty programs, where you're inviting the researchers to help you out in finding those security flaws. Again, getting the different perspective in testing your products. And also, it is considered to be less expensive, for finding the vulnerabilities by leveraging those bug bounty programs. So these are the couple of the ways how you can infuse the security in the development life cycle and achieve the SSDLC, where also, like, the you are building the trust, increasing the trust of your customers, as they know that this organization is doing the right step for shipping the secure products, and also providing them SOC 2 type 2 kind of an audit regularly. It does builds the trust among the customers. And also, like, you can also participate in disclosing your vulnerability publicly by the CVE, that builds the trust among the customers. So these are the couple of the ways you can have your security in your modern development ecosystems. And if we go deep dive into, especially in the pipeline, which is like the CICD pipeline, this is how the each scan at various stages of the development life cycle you can perform. Every scan is important. Just the running the SAST and SE in the build test line is not sufficient. Like I said earlier, having running the DAST and IAST, which does more kind of a black box testing, will also help you in detecting the vulnerabilities which can't be detected using the SAST and SCA scan. So if any of you is thinking to enable the security in your development lifecycle, these are the few scanning tools, the products, what you need to place in the stages, in the various stages of the development life cycles. So the benefits what you get with the adoption of the Devsecops is, obviously, you are enhancing your product security. You will be shipping more secure products. You are also building the trust and the collaboration among the engineering team. And like I said, Devsecops, it's very important to mitigate with the rising frequency of an attack. And also, you will be having the peace of the mind, the harmony for delivering a secure product, streamlining the application delivery timely, quickly, and also reducing the security vulnerabilities volume as early as possible. So these are the few key benefits of adopting the DevSecOps in your development ecosystems. Lately, there has been a trend of the adoption of the AI in the DevSecOps. If you see, the DevSecOps is nothing, it's but like collecting the data over the period of the time from the various stages of a development life cycles. And for anyone familiar with the basic concepts of the AI and ML, it depends heavily on the data. In order to get the correct predictions, you need to make sure the model what you have built has an accurate and a large volume of the data. And there are the few challenges of having this AI ML in adoption. So if the technology stack is way different, it would be very hard to build the model. There won't be any enough sufficient correct data where you can leverage AI ML and it will start predicting because of a different software and the hardware in your technology stack. But if your technology stack is very straightforward, not overplug with the tons of the different development technology, you can leverage them. It will help you in keeping up with the rapid development life cycle and will strengthen, will secure your DevOps infrastructure. So try to take use advantage of this EML for the self-discovering and governing your CICD infrastructure. So the healthy DevSecOps operating model will look like this. First, you come up with what are the implementation, what are the controls you need to do. You collaborate with the developers, the security engineers, and then you try to infuse the security in every stage of development lifecycle. In a build, test, deploy phase, you are running your scanning tools and it is going through the continuous. There will be the vulnerability detection. You will go through the iteration, coming up with the remediation strategy, how you can address those vulnerabilities. So this is how the healthy operating model in the DevSecOps world looks like. And many of you might be curious of how you can pivot as a DevSecOps engineer. It's a very high demanding role. You just need to understand the basic principles of a DevOps, the practices. Don't need to be a hands-on development experience. Just a strong understanding of the languages like the Python, Ruby, Rails, Java might be good for your easy transition into the DevSecOps engineer. And also some based security practices, some implementation about the various scanning tools, the knowledge around the cybersecurity threats and what are the best practices will really help you to jump into and transition your career into the DevSecOps engineer. Some common symptoms of the DevSecOps failure I have seen is many times we plug so many scanning tools wires into your CICD pipeline, and that's where you are adding the complexity. Before building the trust about the tools, you start blocking your build, and that's completely red flag. There it will be chaotic situation. You will be making your developers unhappy and delaying the development release life cycle. Also, you will be providing a very bad user experience to your engineers. That's why always start taking a baby step when you are enabling those scanning tools. Don't go with the blocking approach. First, build the trust. And then once you have established the process, the security controls, once the trust is built for the tools, that's where you can go with the blocking approach and provide some better automation and user experience to the engineers. So some of the challenges in adopting the DevSecOps are it needs the mindset change. Obviously, it won't be completely creating the disruption to the engineer in the development life cycle, but many times they'll be thinking that it's like a speed bump we are adding into their progress, and they might be resisting in adopting this DevSecOps. And because of incompatibility in the DevOps operation and the way the security team wants to operate. So again, it's not like a drastic change we are trying to introduce from the traditional way of operating in the DevOps environment. So we need to make sure we do that collaboration with the engineering team, build the trust. We are just trying to break the silos, how those teams are working independently. So that change in the cultural mindset will play a very key role, and it takes a time to adapt to any new change. Also, many times there is low availability of the security professional. Many times people doesn't have the enough knowledge, experience of, like, how efficient, scalable way they can enable those scanning tools or guide the engineering team how they can remediate those vulnerabilities. So there has to be a balancing between the speed and the security. And like I said, never overload the technologies right away. Slowly enable your scanning tools, build the trust, then you can go into the blocking mode. And many times, like, the complexity in the infrastructure in the different cloud environment also might be challenging to adopt the DevSecOps. So few tips for everyone is that always try to understand your pipeline. What are the different pipeline exist in your organization? Try to test the accuracy of the scanning tools before you start breaking the build. Make sure that you first define the processes, get the buying from all the leaders before you start building those controls in your pipeline, and always be clear of what would be the expectation, what would the output will look like. And always support the team, help them out in meeting those SLAs for remediating those vulnerabilities, and making sure that the security depth, what we look for, the security posture, what it looks like from the vulnerability that comes out from those scanning tools. We provide a correct remediation strategy to the engineering team rather just enforcing the SLA to them. So I'll just like to conclude. Like I said, security responsibility is not just for security engineer, it's responsibility of everybody. DevSecOps has revolutionized the way the organization handle the security. It promises to break the silos between the developers operation and the security, and it has become a go-to practice for the organization who does a rapid modern development. And also you can leverage the AI ML in your DevSecOps for your efficient SSDLC. That's the way the DevSecOps can help in reducing the vulnerabilities and also improving the security posture of the organization. Always try to use the scanning tools which are easy to use, which are friendly, which can be reliable, giving you the less false positive rates. And as the exploits, the attackers are constantly evolving, we also need to evolve into our practices, how we do our modern software development. So that's why we need to start adopting the DevSecOps. If it's not in your organization, and it is just a progressive step that organization needs to consider to catch up with this fast digital transformation. So thank you so much for listening to me. These are the few reference links I would like to share. Please go through. You will get some better picture about the DevSecOps and the importance of the DevSecOps. And thank you.